Let's start with Baldoni's lawsuit against the New York Times. The Times, as Liz just pointed out there, has said they're going to vigorously defend their reporting.
The New York Times filed a motion on Friday to dismiss a federal defamation lawsuit filed by actor Justin Baldoni.
All right, so let's dive into it. I've got the emails right here, several of which. I want to start with page 109. We're going to jump around.
The New York Times correctly calls out Justin Baldoni's lawsuit for what it is: a shameless PR document that has no business in a court of law.
Things just keep getting crazier with the Justin Baldoni lawsuit against the New York Times. New emails have just been uncovered, and they reveal some shocking details about how the Times handled this entire situation. From insane deadlines to edited messages and even accusations against Baldoni's publicist, this story has everything. Let's break it all down. Back in December 2024, the New York Times published an article titled "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine." The report claimed that Justin Baldoni and his team had orchestrated a smear campaign against Blake Lively. But according to Baldoni, this was completely false.
But according to this New York Times article that includes screenshots, emails from Justin and his PR crisis team, it seems they use those things to their advantage to try and bury this other story of how Justin was on set. Because according to the complaint, her filing includes excerpts from thousands of pages of text messages and emails that she obtained through a subpoena. These and other documents were reviewed by the New York Times. He wants to feel like she can be buried, a publicist working with the studio and Mr. Baldoni wrote in an August 2nd message to the crisis management expert Melissa Nathan. "You know we can bury anyone," Miss Nathan wrote. In the following weeks, Miss Nathan, whose clients have included Johnny Depp and rapper Drake and Travis Scott, went hard at the press, pushing to prevent stories about Mr. Baldoni's behavior and reinforce negative ones about Miss Lively. The text messages show Jed Wallace, a self-described hired gun, led a digital strategy that included boosting social media posts that could help their cause. And I just want to say that the New York Times did make the full complaint public, so if you want to read through the entire complaint and see all of these screenshots yourself, it is there for your public viewing in case anybody wants to second guess whether this is real or what the heck.
Not only did Baldoni deny these allegations, but he also took things a step further. He filed a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times for defamation. That's right, $250 million.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos for more on this. Danny, good morning. Thanks for being here. Quite a talker. Let's start with Baldoni's lawsuit against the New York Times. The Times, as Liz just pointed out there, has said they're going to vigorously defend their reporting. Walk us through what each side would need to prove here.
Baldoni and the other plaintiffs need to prove that the Times made false statements and that they either knew the statements were false or recklessly disregarded the falsity of those statements. Basically, it's like the proverbial ostrich sticking their head in the sand and ignoring facts that would have led them to publish something different. And that, in addition, they need to show damages. This is why defamation is one of those things that everybody always talks about, but really not often do lawyers find a defamation case interesting enough or appealing enough to actually file. And it's because proving damages, you need to show that the false statements actually caused you professional harm. That's really difficult to do, but in the case of actors, there is a case to be made that, hey, I got this bad press, and then I missed out on this movie, and this movie would have netted me $10 million. A similar theory in, say, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation cases. So you are seeing a trend where in Hollywood, defamation has a unique set of facts where it actually is worth it to file suit.
As we saw there, it looks like Baldoni does plan to sue Lively. For her part, a couple days ago, she filed a suit against him, accusing him of sexual harassment and retaliation. That suit filed in New York. So if Baldoni's lawyers do file a suit against Lively, what happens? Do these get coupled together into sort of one case? Do they go on separate tracks? Explain what happens.
They could. There are procedural rules that allow for consolidation of cases. I actually think maybe the New York Times lawsuit could remain separate.
Baldoni wasn't playing around. His attorney, Bryan Freedman, made it clear that they had evidence to back their claims. In fact, Freedman even stated that he would release text messages to the public to prove that some of the messages they included in their report were edited, messages that came from Blake Lively herself.
Hey guys, good morning. Well, Justin Baldoni's attorney, Bryan Freedman, tells me they're not done taking legal action following their lawsuit against the New York Times, adding that he plans to release even more text messages between the co-stars. Freedman insists the truth is in those documents and that Blake Lively is the one who used her power and influence to take control of the film. Lively's team, though, they're saying they're going to defend her accusations in court. For the first time, the lawyer for Justin Baldoni is speaking out, saying the actor's libel suit against the New York Times will not be the last lawsuit in his client's legal battle with co-star Blake Lively. Do you plan to sue Blake Lively?
Absolutely.
You will?
Yes.
And what will you allege in that suit?
Well, we're working on it now.
Bryan Freedman firing back at Lively's bombshell lawsuit, alleging she was subjected to sexually inappropriate behavior on the set of the film It Ends With Us, which Baldoni also directed.
But just how likely is it that Baldoni will actually win this lawsuit? According to legal expert Kevin Goldberg, this is going to be an extremely difficult case to win. Defamation lawsuits, especially against major news organizations, are notoriously hard to prove.
But the lawsuit by Justin Baldoni against the New York Times alleging 4 different counts: defamation, false light invasion of privacy, promissory fraud, and breach of implied contract. And it is a 90-page complaint with a lot of factual allegations in there. We can talk about why they might be in there or what that means. But really what we are seeing here is a different way of having your back and forth, your conflict play out in courts.
Let's talk about what is in those almost 90 pages there. When you're looking at that, when you're seeing different text messages, different facts, different claims, what sticks out to you? And does he have a strong case against the New York Times?
Well, it is a lot of factual recitation and probably 2/3 to 3/4 facts, and then they get to sort of the legal claims at the end. And what we have to understand here is anytime a public figure, that's what the law calls a celebrity in these defamation cases. And that would include not only Justin Baldoni, but I think his production company, Wayfair Productions, as well as the PR people and others that are joining him as plaintiffs in this lawsuit. Anytime that these public figures bring a defamation lawsuit, they have a really high bar to overcome. They have to show a number of things, and the burden is on them to show all these things, that the Times had made a materially and substantially false assertion of fact about them that was published with something called actual malice and that caused actual damages.
And it looks like the New York Times is already fighting back. They've filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit in court, claiming that their reporting was accurate and fair.
The New York Times filed a motion on Friday to dismiss a federal defamation lawsuit filed by actor Justin Baldoni in response to the paper's December article about his troubles on set with his It Ends With Us co-star Blake Lively. The article detailed Lively's sexual harassment complaint filed with the state of California, as well as some internal communications among Baldoni's team about his co-star. In the new filing, attorneys for the Times claimed that the paper is protected by fair report privilege. Now, that's something that safeguards outlets from libel when reporting on official documents like legal filings, also noting that the article included a response from Baldoni's legal team.
But now things have taken another shocking turn. Newly uncovered emails related to the lawsuit raise serious questions about the New York Times' handling of this situation. According to these emails, the New York Times only gave Justin Baldoni 1 day to respond to a long list of accusations that had been compiled over 2 months. That's right, they spent 2 months putting this together and then expected Baldoni and his legal team to respond in just under a day.
So here's the email from Megan Toohey from Friday, December 20th. Winter solstice, the shortest night of the year. Or I should say shortest day of the year, longest night of the year. Urgent questions from New York Times. Mr. Baldoni, we are reporting, and by the way, we will show the parts of this email that are in bad faith. Mr. Baldoni, we are reporting about a crisis communication operation conducted on behalf of you, Jamie Heath and Wayfarer Studios, to protect your reputations and harm Blake Lively's, as described in a legal complaint filed today. Now, the question is, so the legal complaint was filed and they already have so it feels to me like they're trying to make this look like they didn't have the information ahead of time, which we damn well know the metadata shows they were working on this, back in October. But what's interesting is they say not only is it protecting his image, but harming Blake Lively's, and that's what the whole case is going to be. Was he trying to harm Blake, or was he trying to just protect himself? The effort was undertaken last summer out of concern that complaints Miss Lively had made during the filming of It Ends With Us would become public during the movie's rollout. Again, why would Justin Baldoni and his prized film, the biggest movie they've ever made, they've got money on the line, why would they want to roll out Blake Lively's accusations against them? I'll tell you what, if anyone ever accused me of something, true or not, I'd rather not talk about it publicly.
And if that wasn't bad enough, it turns out that the New York Times sent slightly different versions of the same email to all the people involved in the lawsuit, meaning no one actually got the full picture of what the article would say before it was published. Due to the insanely tight deadline, Baldoni's team was only able to send a short response before the article went live. This raises a serious ethical question. Was the New York Times deliberately limiting Baldoni's ability to defend himself?
Because even though the Times gave them until noon the next day, which, by the way, emailing people on a Friday night and say, by noon on this Saturday, tomorrow, you better respond and tell me everything you want to say, that's ridiculous to me. So like I said, she sent just slightly different variations of this email to all the parties. This was the one to Justin, so I'll just read to you some of the tiny different details. During shooting, Ms. Lively brought complaints to you and Mr. Heath about alleged sexual and other inappropriate conduct. She claimed you had improvised unwanted kissing with her and discussed your sex life, including encounters in which you may not have received consent. She claimed that Mr. Heath had shown her a video of his wife naked and that he watched her in her trailer when she was topless and having body makeup removed, despite her asking him to look away. She alleged that throughout filming, you and Mr. Heath invaded Ms. Lively's privacy by entering her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding her infant child. And we know that's not true, because she invited him in the trailer. Miss Lively had expressed concerns about you from the beginning. Before shooting, she objected to some sex scenes you wanted to add that she considered gratuitous. With the support of Sony, the film's distributor, she made her own cut of the movie, bringing in editors and a composer, and adding in a Taylor Swift song. Wayfarer and Sony went with Miss Lively's cut, and she got a producer credit. Before the release of the film, Colleen Hoover, Miss Lively and other cast members, informed Sony and Wayfarer that they would not do any publicity appearances alongside you during the rollout of the film. Miss Hoover had experienced frustrations with you and became upset when you told her about Miss Lively's allegations at a dinner last spring. You worried that the unfollow situation is what everyone is pointing at, seemingly that something is much bigger under the surface. As why would they all unfollow? And a member of the PR operation responded, "We flagged to Jed and his team as well." Sales of her hair care line plummeted.
And here's where things get even wilder. The New York Times initially claimed they had reviewed all the documents in their reporting, but now it has been revealed that many of the text messages they used were edited before publication. This was later revealed by Baldoni and his team. That's a huge deal, because if those texts were altered, it means the Times was potentially misleading the public about what really happened.
We have learned that Miss Lively filed the legal complaint against you, Mr. Heath, Steve Starowitz, Wayfarer, Alyssa Nathan, Jed Wallace, and Jennifer Abel, alleging harassment, retaliation, and aiding and abetting of harassment and retaliation, amongst other claims. The claimant claims misconduct by you and Mr. Heath during filming, including repeatedly violating physical boundaries and making sexual and other inappropriate comments. Blake would have been the only person who would have ever leaked this. It doesn't help anybody. The complaint includes a side letter to her contract signed by Mr. Heath, in which the studio agreed to install more safeguards during filming and agreed not to retaliate against Miss Lively. She is now saying you violated the terms of the letter. The complaint includes extensive private text messages and emails that she obtained through a subpoena and that document the crisis communication operation. They include exchanges involving you, Mr. Heath, and the crisis communication team headed by Miss Nathan. The New York Times reviewed these along with other documents. Oh, they reviewed them! Did you review the missing emoji? We are seeking your response to the claims of misconduct and retaliation through this PR campaign, and we would welcome the opportunity to talk with you on the record. We're also sharing the other findings from our reporting below. Please offer any on-the-record comment as well as any other information you think we should know. Additionally, please notify us of any inaccuracies. We need to hear back from you tomorrow by noon Eastern. So they send this out at 9:43 p.m. Friday and say we need to hear back from you.
And it's not just Baldoni who's being targeted. In another shocking revelation, emails sent to Baldoni's publicist, Jessica Abel, show that the New York Times accused her of running a defamation campaign against Amber Heard when working for Johnny Depp.
Here's an email to, and it's redacted, but then it says Miss Nathan. So this is where it gets a little different. She says, "You have worked with high-profile clients, including Johnny Depp, whose ex-wife Amber Heard accused him of physical abuse. He successfully sued Miss Heard for defamation, and the trial became a spectacle amid suspicions of an online campaign to damage her credibility. In the text messages, you reference your involvement in that campaign. Can you comment on your involvement and what was done?" This year, after a decade at the New York consultancy Hilt 6 Strategies, I don't know if I said that right, you started your own firm, Tag PR. Its majority stakeholder is a company run by the prominent music manager Scooter Braun. In August, Kjersti Fla, a Norwegian entertainment reporter, uploaded to YouTube a 2016 interview she had done with Miss Lively, in which the actress snapped back when Miss Fla made a comment about her baby bump, titling it "The Blake Lively Interview That Made Me Want to Quit My Job." Well, whose fucking fault is that? Are you serious? This goes back to what I said in the beginning. Nobody needs to hire a PR firm for a retaliation campaign when the person that you would be retaliating against is actually just making herself look like a cunt all on her own. In 2022, in the midst of Mr. Depp's legal battle with Miss Heard, Miss Flaw posted clips of her interviews with the actor, tagged Justice for Johnny Depp. And? What's your fucking point, Megan? This is her email to Sarowitz. Specifically, the legal filing asserts that you divulged at the film's New York premiere on August 6th that you were prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family.
Meanwhile, with the New York Times now fighting to get the lawsuit dismissed, Blake Lively's team has rushed to support them. And according to some sources, they've used this as an opportunity to once again slander Baldoni. This has made people even more suspicious. Could it be that Blake Lively and the New York Times were working together long before she filed her legal complaint? Some are starting to think that this was coordinated from the start.
And so on and so forth. But what's extra interesting to me is what the princess of evidenceless is saying about this move from the New York Times. In a statement, the alleged nose job recipient says, quote, "In its motion to dismiss, the New York Times correctly calls out Justin Baldoni's lawsuit for what it is, a shameless PR document that has no business in a court of law. For years, Baldoni urged men to listen and to believe women. But when a woman spoke out about his behavior, he and his billionaire backer, Steve Sarowitz, used a social media combat plan to scorch earth and try to bury and destroy her, along with the media who reports on it. These bullying tactics will not survive in court, and everyone should see their meritless claims for what they are." Now, I like to keep an open mind, and if you're a lawyer, I could use your input here. I don't understand why they even included the New York Times in this Lively and party's lawsuit.
At this point, the lawsuit is still ongoing, and the motion to dismiss has yet to be ruled on. But one thing is clear, this case is getting messier by the day. So what do you guys think? Do these new emails prove that the New York Times was being unfair to Justin Baldoni? Was this a deliberate attempt to silence him? Or do you think the Times was just doing its job? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more updates on this insane Hollywood legal battle. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.